Everybody, I'm so glad you're here. I hope everyone had a good holiday and enjoying the time that you now have after the holiday, which just welcome everybody. I'm really glad you're here. I'm glad we get to share this together. So welcome everybody. I wanted to give you a little bit of a background or information of how the format of this is because some of the hour will look familiar, some will maybe be a little bit new for some of us. As I mentioned, I'm going to offer some thoughts and some things that have been interesting to me in this season of in between and they are just intended as thought starters. We will then have meditation, which in this meditation, it may look a little different than what you're used to, or if you've not been meditating, it may be all be brand new. Um, but in our meditation in this hour, it's going to be meditation forward. And what I mean by that is that um, our meditation time together is going to be practiced. I really suggest we do a sitting meditation. I really encourage everyone, if you can, to leave your cameras on during the meditation, um, and audio off during the periods where we're not sharing together. And the reason is that I'm finding that when I meditate with others on Zoom and we leave our cameras on, I find it more, it carries the spirit of being in the room with others meditating better. And it also helps me stay more attentive to my own accountability, to remaining still. So physically, structurally, that's how I'd like to offer meditation. So let's just begin. Why do why now? Why come together right now in our little group for meditating on this time? Like, why now? What's going on? A lot's going on. We've just finished Christmas Day. And for some of us, that is like a phew, got that over. For some of us, it opens up a period of like what's next, or where everybody go, or sadness of having people around and then not having people around. The anticipation of Christmas for some is just, really high and a very happy time. For others, the anticipation of Christmas being over is high. So this is the day after Christmas. It is also the second day of what's known as the 12 days of Christmas, which is sometimes called Christmastide. And it is the period between Christmas Day and the day of Epiphany. And this year or next year, the day of Epiphany is January the 6th. The day of Epiphany, which I kind of get excited about, is when the wise men showed up at the manger bearing gifts for Jesus. And I just love that because I know for years, Christmas to me was one and done. You know, Christmas Eve was big, Christmas morning even bigger. Um, but there's in so many parts of our world this season after Christmas and before Epiphany is a real important and significant period of time. So kind of know that in a lot of our world, people are like turning lights on all over the place. The other part, so there is an in-between. I get kind of entranced by this in-between period of Christmas Day, Epiphany Day, and then you also have the end of one year and the beginning of the other year, of the next year, which again, for some is a so another day. For me, I kind of get excited. It's a period of year where I think about what journal am I going to use for my next year? I think about sometimes I have a word show up that I want to carry into next year. It turns into for me, a time of reflection. And so that also fits for me in this in-between recognition, recognizing the in-betweens. And then I've got to tell you, on a personal level, some folks are just, no matter what time of the year it is, they are experiencing in between some really anticipating good things and anticipating some really hard things. So I think for me, this idea, this invitation of looking at what is happening on a seasonal level and on a soul level and on a personal level, living in the in between. I think that that is our invitation for today. Um, so I'll just begin with another reason why I bring this theme to us is that several years ago, some of you may know that during this period of the year is when I entered some contemplation and meditation with the St. Francis prayer. And I found it as my companion for daily touchstone for each of the 12 days of Christmas. And it was a good experience for me. Um, and then several years ago, I had the same longing during the period, and I was invited to read Genesis, the first chapter of Genesis. And that was kind of like for me, kind of out of surprise. Okay, we'll go with Genesis. And it became very strong invitation for me. Um, so let me read that to you and to listen maybe for to listen for where the in between in the first chapter, the first book. In the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. Two things. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning. So as I first read this in this context of in between, and as I even touch it today, for me, the the hook was and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. It was so, I still see it, this image of sky where many of us think of as maybe where God's home is, and earth where my home is, where I'm grounded in my humanness and my humanity. And then being able to read this first verse, these verses as something was going on that was hovering in between, hovering over the waters. Um, and then asking me, I felt this invitation to live in this, to live in this in between. And it unfolded many in betweens for me. But the one that resonated for me then and still does now is that not knowing God fully, nor myself, is the in between. Um, And that reminded me, and then in more recent years, of this, reminded me of this suspension, that we are suspended in this state of existence. Every one of us, no matter what our conception of our God, our higher power, our creator, and our humanity, we are somewhere in between there, suspended. And I felt that recognition in these first verses. More recently, I saw it pop up in this collective text called The Cloud of Unknowing. And the Cloud of Unknowing has just kind of been one of those things, was written in mid 13 to late 1300, so it's very old. I love it was written anonymously. We don't know who really wrote it. Nobody stood up and said, "It's mine, it's mine." I mean, I have high regard for people who write things anonymously. We, it is thought that he was either a priest or a monk, and his writings have withstood the test of time in a way because of the truths I think that his writings tend to carry and the things that his writings prompt in us, the reader, because he addresses this unknowing as not something to be afraid of and not something to be disregarded, So let me read this to you. The first time you practice contemplation, you'll only experience darkness like a cloud of unknowing. You won't know what this is. You'll only know that in your will, you feel a simple reaching out to God. You must also know that this darkness and this cloud will always be between you and your God, whatever you do. They will always keep you from seeing Him clearly by the light of understanding in your intellect and will block you from feeling Him fully in the sweetness of love in your emotions. So be sure to make your home in the darkness. Ah. So I think for these two that popped out, and for you, there are going to be other things likely that pop out. But for me, it was addressing that you'll only know that in your will you feel a simple reaching out to God, and then be sure to make your home in the darkness. For me, this is exactly what meditation is inviting me to do. That this is what contemplative prayer, contemplative silence is inviting me to do. And it's giving me permission to not have understanding, to not enter with demand to understand or demand of intellect, but simply to be willing to hover in the space between knowing and not knowing, between God's wisdom and my messiness. So there's that reading. Then more recently, I've been captivated by a teacher, Mary Starr. Mary Starr, she's a writer. She's very eclectic. She is very scholared in Christianity and other religions and other traditions. She has this way of bringing things together in a very relatable sense. And I heard her also addressing living in the ambiguity of two things, two situations, living in paradoxes, and that being okay. That might be where we can sit with our God. And she writes, the, the start of wonder is not knowing. I invite you to dismantle your preconceptions, to pull on the loose thread of your belief systems and let them unravel. Allow yourself to be like a child, seeing the world through fresh eyes. Instead of trying to control life by making sense of it, embrace ambiguity and paradox as being the domain of the truest things. The holy lives in mystery, in darkness, in liminal space. Not knowing isn't a problem to be solved, but rather reality to be celebrated. In Zen Buddhism, this open stance is called beginner's mind. Cultivate it. Golly, I mean, cultivate it from really kind of goes back to, 1300s where the writer wrote, make a home in the darkness. I mean, cultivate this. Don't run from it. So that's really the invitation for today, that we sit together in contemplative meditation. Um, we may want to carry in something that popped up just now for you, or what comes up in your silent time of two places you are standing between, whether they be the physical stance, whether they be the emotional stance, the situational stance. Um, and to just hold gently this idea when we go into meditation. I'll offer at the beginning of meditation, before I ring the bell, I'll offer some very brief, light invitations on entering meditation, and then I will track time and I will ring the bell when it comes back out. So, and know at the end of our meditation, I'm going to give space about 5 minutes for you to make notes. So as you can, try to just be in stillness for now. And we're going to do that together. So go ahead and get comfortable now.